finishing up another.
And there might be delay between when Bob and I speak because we're trying to keep our distance and there's only one contraption, so we're going to take turns, just so since you can't see us, what's going on, okay? Thank you.
Sure.
Calling the meeting in order, we'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
to the flag
of the United States of America and to
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
under
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We had no one sign up for persons to address the board. We'll move on to approval of the minutes from the March 4th, 2020 meeting. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved. This is Kate Parker.
Moved by
Second,
Board
Carly
Member.
Ryder.
Moved by Board Member Parker, second by Board Member Ryder. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries with 4 votes. Now on to the approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved. Contilke.
Do I have a second?
Second, Kate Parker.
I have a motion by Board Member Tolke, a second by Board Member Parker. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Agenda carries by 4 votes. No new conflicts of interest were presented to the board. I'll move on to item number 7, approval of the consent agenda, items A through D. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
So moved, Ryder.
Motion.
Second, Ryder.
Okay, motion by Tolke, second by Ryder. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Moving on to the reports of the president, Dr. Griggs.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for calling in. I was just thinking, March 4th wasn't that long ago, and it feels like it's more than a year at times, and how incredibly busy everybody has been. What we thought we would do for the board today, I've been trying to keep you apprised of developments as they have been changing fairly rapidly over the last couple of weeks concerning the COVID health emergency. I thought we would be best informed, or the board be best informed, to allow leadership at Southeast Tech to report on their different areas in terms of the planning that has gone into our response to the emerging health crisis and what we have done in each of the different areas. So I'm going to turn it over, and I think we have Dr. Benjamin Valdez, Academic Affairs Vice President, to talk about academics, and then we'll continue on from there with enrollment management. Megan Fisher will provide an update there. There's been a lot of activity in terms of recruiting students. That effort has continued. All of this has been on the backbone of IT, and Eric Van Laken will report on that. Rich Kloon on finance and operations and facilities, what we're doing there. And then Tracy Nolder and Andy Van Zanten will talk about housing and what's happening with our student housing. So with that, Benjamin, if you would like to kick us off there, we'll go forward. Thank you.
Thank you, President Griggs. President Nicholson, members of the board, thank you for this opportunity to speak to you and talk to you about what we have been going through over the past few weeks. What I want to start off by saying is I am very proud of the faculty and staff of Southeast Tech stepping up and recognizing that we are in some unprecedented times and uncharted waters, and for all of their hard work. If it wasn't for my academic leadership team, my 2 deans, Dr. Craig Peters and Kristen Paseo, along with my department chairs, we would not be in the place that we are today. They have gone far above and beyond to really get us to this point, and have really carried the lion's share of the weight. What started this whole process was the fact that we made the decision to, very early, to go ahead and start getting faculty prepared and trained. So the week that faculty returned, we extended spring break 1 additional week for the students. During that week, we actually brought faculty to campus, and we worked with them diligently on getting all our faculty prepared and trained, bare bones training on the learning management system, so that we could go ahead and start to work with students in an online fashion. The biggest challenge we face, though, is the fact that a lot of our programs, primarily our trades and healthcare programs, are hands-on. So those do require still a different level of student interaction. We still do have a large number of programs such as business, IT, and some of our other programs that can totally be delivered online. and those have had a very smooth transition. Faculty are using what we are terming an online hybrid format. So the traditional classes that were face-to-face are on this hybrid online format. What faculty are doing is they are holding a 1-hour synchronous session online with students each week per class. So those students can call in, they use the Microsoft Office Teams format, they're live online with their instructor. The instructors are also recording these sessions. We understand that a lot of students, even though a lot of us are at home, we have a lot of students that may not have that ability to attend the session live. They're home with children and or family members. They may have other things going on.
Conference recording has been turned on.
Or work. So they're really recording them and allowing students to listen later in the week that fits within their schedule. In addition, full-time faculty are having 1 hour each day of online live office hours. So students are able to get online and have that one-on-one interaction and discussion with them if they need that additional assistance and help. Again, we've moved everything to the learning management system, and our LMS has allowed us to really start uploading more documents and more resources to students so they can be engaged. Last week we made the decision to reopen parts of campus to allow faculty to come to campus in small numbers. We're really adhering to the CDC and South Dakota Department of Health guidelines. So we're only allowing 10 people at a time within the building. We're using our Astra scheduling software where faculty will get online and schedule time to come into the campus. We put additional requirements in place, such as no more than 2 individuals in a lab area or classroom. We realize that every now and then with some programs, let's take Surge Tech as an example, as the instructor is hands-on demonstrating, they have a lab assistant helping hold the camera to videotape what they're doing. So faculty are coming, they're doing these videotape sessions and then posting them online to continue to provide more delivery option and engagement for the students. Seems to be going very well and with engaging with the students. I am working with the academic leadership team to really start looking long-term, and if this continues, how does this work? We're having discussions about the summer session, and I think we'll be ready probably next week to make a decision and go to the executive team here about what we're going to do with summer, and then also talking about the fall semester as well. The unknown, which you hear a lot out there, is this may continue or may rear its head again later in the fall. With the start of flu season, we want to try and be somewhat prepared and have a plan in place to be able to meet students' needs and engage with our students very effectively so that the learning process can continue. We've been very happy, and I'm very excited to report that we have a large number of students attending and participating in these online sessions and being engaged with faculty. We're not hearing a lot of outcries or dissatisfaction from students. Those that have a concern or something, we're immediately working with them to address it and to assist them. I want to thank our IT, Eric Manlaken and his team. They've really gone above and beyond to support us and ensure that we can deliver the curriculum in this format, purchasing extra supplies for this week, extra cameras and recording equipment so that we can continue to really provide a strong and robust educational experience for our students. Thank you very much. Any questions?
Yes, Benjamin, Cynthia Mickelson. So with our students, are there any areas that students didn't really need laptops at the time, but now do, and were those students able to get access to laptops with that transition?
Ms. Nicholson, all of our programs are currently laptop-based programs. So all students do utilize them within their program. So we had no issues with students not having laptops. The challenge for us was internet connectivity off of campus, through their home or whatever. But I think working with Tracy Nolan and Student Affairs and IT, they've come up with some really good solutions and provide some options for students.
Thank you. And I've been made aware that Dr. Nold in our district has been working with some families who had issues with Midco or CenturyLink, either getting disconnected or did not have access. They've been able to work with Midco through the district and CenturyLink to either get them reconnected or Wi-Fi. Maybe if you're having any students having that issue and you're not having success, please reach out to Dr. Nold and see maybe he has a connection there at those two entities to help us with those students.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions for?
And I'll turn it over.
Megan?
President Nicholson and members of the board, this is Megan Fisher, Vice President for Enrollment Management at Southeast Tech. Can you hear me okay?
I can. Can the phone ins? Okay.
Yes. This is Nan, I can hear you. Thank you. I wanted to make sure I successfully unmuted myself. The enrollment management team created a contingency plan to begin our operations working remotely. We started doing that at the beginning of March, made this contingency plan, just because we started to hear word that maybe we should have a plan B in place. And it was the next week that we were implementing our plan B. So I'm glad we were able to do that. For staff members, we looked at each staff member's individual work plan and determined what technology they might need that they don't already have available to them. And so again, a big shout out to Eric Van Lappen and his IT team to get us set up with everything that we needed very quickly. So when we were able to announce that it was time to start working remotely, everybody was ready to go. And because of that, we really didn't miss a beat in the ability to process our admissions functions. The number one concern that I've had was being able to continue to process applications at the same rate that we were previously, and we have successfully done that. So we have two people who come into the office every day at the beginning of the day just to process the mail, and they get faxes. We still get a lot of faxes, and they're able to scan those items and route them so that we're able to continue processing the admissions applications, like I said, and the paperwork that comes in that's required for the different programs, as well as our financial aid paperwork. So we can continue to package students and get them their financial aid packages. That makes a big difference in their decision on whether they're going to make that commitment to Southeast Tech. The other thing we have done on the admissions side is, of course, we've had to cancel all of our spring recruiting functions. So that means all of the sanctioned college fairs have been canceled. All of the career fairs have been canceled, obviously. The Sioux Falls sophomores that come out to campus for 3 days straight, we didn't have any of those opportunities this spring because of the coronavirus. And so what we did is we've moved all of our virtual start visit days virtually. We're offering those through Microsoft Teams. And so we've had one. We had a little over 30 people participate in that, and we have another one coming up here on April 17th. And of course, it's not quite the same as getting students into the lab and seeing firsthand what we're about, but we do, it's a pretty good job, and we're able to have a live Q&A session through those virtual team events, so it's going okay. And then our staff is still working hard, and they're scheduling personal visits. They communicate with students through email, and then, of course, this generation, a lot of texting. And so we're able to do that texting straight from our computers through Salesforce, so that works pretty slick. So we're still seeing a good uptick in applications and students wanting to continue to make future plans for college. Moving on to our student success department. Our student success department, again, has been able to continue its operations pretty seamlessly. The big thing that we are working on right away when we went remotely was getting our current students registered, and that went really well, working with faculty and just communicating our student success advisors, communicating to students and getting them registered. We're also registering dual credit students right now, so working with high school counselors on that. And our new student registration events, we really wanted to make sure that we were keeping those on time and getting students into those classes. And again, the big push of just working with them to continue making their future plans in light of everything going on. So we held our first two academic advising and registration events virtually on Friday, April 3rd, and Saturday, April 4th. And of those two events, we had 281 students who participated. So we were really pleased with that turnout. And so we've got another one scheduled for April 24th. And now with campus being closed into May, we will also be doing our May 15th AAR virtually as well. And so what happens with those events is the students join us. We go through everything that they're going to receive in the mail. They know they're going to get their schedules, and then we send them an email right away that has a link to all that information immediately when we're done with the session. And then they receive a packet from us in the mail with their schedules, test out forms, any paperwork that they have to complete. There's a business supply envelope included in that, so they can send back their financial aid paperwork as well. So it went really well. I think we had 45 minutes of questions at the end of each of those sessions. So we were really pleased with how those went. Kind of a fun fact from student success is we still have some student activities meeting virtually, like our SGA and then a couple clubs that students are still scheduling things and getting together. So it's kind of fun to see that and still having a sense of community. Financial aid, like I mentioned before, is able to keep processing those award packages. In fact, they are completely up to date on packaging students, so that's a good sign. They come in, they have a lot of mail that comes in to financial aid, so we have to continue to process that to keep it moving along. So we do have someone coming in to take care of that. And then our financial aid staff is also connecting virtually with students. And our director of financial aid participates in all of our virtual events because that's a very important factor in students making a decision about where to go to college. So a lot of questions about financial aid during those events. And our last area in enrollment management marketing, it's very advantageous that we got that website up and done prior to all this happening. It's been instrumental in our communicating with students, the staff, and the general public about Southeast Tech actions that we've taken in light of the coronavirus. So we've got a new COVID-19 web pages out there to keep everybody updated. Marketing has also been doing a good job on keeping our communication funnel going for admissions, which is instrumental, and we'll be, I would say, putting our communication funnel on steroids this summer. So we're staying really connected with all of those accepted students through the summer and keeping them apprised of what the next thing is, if we're going to be able to, like Benjamin said, if we're going to continue our summer semester all online, if we're going to be able to start fall semester on campus. We get a lot of questions like that, so we try to communicate with them constantly and answer those questions and keep them informed. And then our marketing has just done a good job working with faculty and our leadership team in terms of getting some good news out there about Southeast Tech, which I hope you heard about, and that was the donation of the medical supplies to our local healthcare community. So that was kind of a good news story. And then finally, scholarships. Our application deadline for the foundation scholarships and Build Dakota remains April 15th. So we continue to review all those applications, and we'll be awarding those students, again, as a way to let them know that scholarship is still there. We still want them to join us in the fall. So any questions on enrollment management?
This is Carly. I was just going to say that during times like this, it's easy to think about all the challenges of all the kind of shifting of gears that have had to happen, but I try to really reflect on the positives that have come to, and I think that one of the things that we may learn that doing some of the AARs virtually actually is beneficial. And you might be able to see students who are able to participate in that way, but they aren't able to come, in real life. And so maybe this becomes a new part of our normal part of our recruiting process. I'll be very curious to see maybe if we can compare what the conversion rate of students who come in person versus students who, did a virtual, and how was their retention and things like that. So there's just been a lot of different innovations that have come out, and different creative thinking and ways of using technology in lots of different ways. And so it'll be very interesting to see how many of those kind of stick around long term as new adopted processes for going forward.
Yeah, I've actually, with this watching staff, we have seen some efficiencies, people figuring out things electronically and sharing it with staff, even if it's something as simple as things in spreadsheets that they're working on. Hey, did you know you can do that? So I agree. It'll be interesting to see how, if we go back to all the ways we were doing things, or if we find a happy medium, or combine some of those procedures.
Yeah. So yeah, regardless, thank you to your staff, because obviously the pressure is on. Without you guys getting people in the doors and signed up for classes, and then getting them to show up, the rest of the things down the line can't work either. So thank you for your flexibility and your dedication to continuing to find new ways to meet people where they are, and show them the benefits of coming, even though it may be a non-traditional way that you're not used to doing right now. So thank you to you and your staff.
Thank you.
No other questions? Okay. IT?
Yep. Eric?
Yes, President Mickelson, members of the board, this is Eric Van Laken. Hopefully you can hear me okay. I've got 4 small kids running around, so if they come blowing in, excuse me on that. But yeah, overall, things have gone really well. I was talking with Bob this morning, and just, I guess a big shout out to, and I kind of, both Megan and Benjamin said this too, just our faculty and our staff, having to do a lot of things very quickly with a lot of new technology, and it's been very good. A lot of patience. I've been telling my staff with patience and flexibility. Those are the 2 big things that we have to get through this. And we started planning this obviously a little bit ahead of the game, and we started to look at things how we could do this remotely. And the nice thing about it is we've heard a lot of people referring to Microsoft Teams, and that was our solution that we already had in place. We didn't have to go out and purchase any licensing or anything like that. Part of that Microsoft Teams is you can compare it to Zoom or WebEx or all those types of other ones that are out there that you may be familiar of, but we already owned Microsoft Teams, and it's part of our annual Microsoft agreement that we do each year, which includes Office and Word and PowerPoint, and Teams is part of it. And we've been utilizing that over the last 2 years, but just not to the extent that we were forced to with the situation we're in. We use it a lot during our just being able to chat one-to-one, maybe some small groups between departments, and integrate with our Outlook calendars, so you can see when people are free, when they're in meetings, those types of things. But we never got to the point where we wanted to start to utilize it more for, just online meetings, doing events through it. And it was on our radar to do this, but as with other things, just priorities. And I guess I was on a couple of meetings today with faculty and online learning committee that we were on, and it forced us to move it forward very quickly. And we kind of used the word steamrolling and, getting baptized with a hose. But people were very, very receptive to it, being able to learn the new technology, and it's worked really well. And as Megan has mentioned, it's opened up a lot of people's eyes on ways of possibly doing things differently down the road with it. And I'll go into that a little bit here in a few minutes, but I want to stress, number one, just the staff and faculty on campus being very open to it, but on top of that, my staff or our IT staff just really picking up the reins and picking up what we needed to do, and people, being flexible and having to change, some different ways of thinking of how we're going to continue to support our employees and, number one, our students. So, with that, we were able to use a lot of the stuff that we've already had in place. We started taking our staff and working them remotely. We had a few things for different staff on campus that we had to get up and rolling, but it wasn't a lot of things. A lot of stuff was already out there. We use a technology on campus that's called a virtual desktop, and I've presented on this a couple times. It's been a few years ago, but what that allows you to do is, with the internet connection, it's kind of, some of you may be familiar with what a VPN is, but this is a little bit different, where you just log in and basically a virtual desktop comes to your laptop and has the software that you need right on that, and that's all you need is an internet connection. We utilize that with our students too, based off what program they're in. They can utilize and get the software they need for the program. So with that, having that in place, that was very easy to have all of our ERP system users, our student information system, they use that even on campus on a daily basis. So that was an easy transition for us. With our staff, what we really wanted to do is just make sure that we could continue to deliver the same support that we could. And with really the only thing that I can see that's been different over the past few weeks is that we don't have a walk-up help desk window where students or employees can come to. We've got people can call in. We've twinned people's cell phones, so if they're calling our help desk number, it's ringing to our full-time staff cell phones, so people don't have any clue where that's at. So we're able to do that. We still have the ability to put on, support tickets where we can work those just like we were when we were on campus. We were able to do remote sessions where if a student's having trouble with their laptop, we can remote into their laptop and help them. If it's installing a piece of software, that type of thing. So all that stuff's been really, really good, and there hasn't been really any drops on that. And we've been monitoring the number of tickets, and it's been manageable. And I think overall, I've been very, very happy with it. But I got a big shout out to, like I said, the staff within our department just really stepping up and thinking outside the box on a lot of this stuff. I guess the other part of it is that what we've tried to do is, we've ran into a few of those questions on the Wi-Fi like President Nicholson was referring to, and what we've been telling them, we didn't want to, we have a few spots on campus where if they had to come to our parking lot, they can get to our network. Didn't really want to promote that a ton just because, it's not reliability, that type of thing. But we worked with MIGCO. I've been in contact with SDN, and I'm on part of the Howard Wood Field or Howard Wood Track Meet. I'm on their board of directors. So a few years ago, and I talked to Ryan Knutson about this. We did a partnership with SDN, and they installed a really robust Wi-Fi system out there. So we started brainstorming that a little bit, and what we were able to do with that is SDN was able to really turn up the bandwidth out there, and we went out and tested that, and we promoted that somewhere. I know there were some students there today that they could sit in the parking lot around Howard Wood Field and be able to get on the open SDN Wi-Fi that's out there and be able to get internet access when they need to. So we tried to provide those options. MIGCO has some offers out there for doing installations. It's based off income level, and SDN's been working hard on that too. But that's been a good partnership to work with, and I know the school district has also communicated that to their families within the district. A couple of other things that we've worked with within our Microsoft team that's worked really well is, as we rolled that out, we created a couple of different channels within that, and basically, if you're familiar with what a wiki looks like, it worked really well that we took all of our faculty and our IT support staff and include them in those channels or groups. So as things would pop up, different things that faculty may be running into when, maybe recording their lectures or whatever it is, or posting them to our LMS, they could just pose that question out on that channel that's there, and our IT support was monitoring that, but also faculty were on that and getting notifications of those things came up. So if something that came up that they had already ran into and best practices, they were able to put that out there, and other faculty would be able to see that and collaborate. And that's been a huge thing. That was something we kind of came up with right at the last minute before we rolled this out and didn't know how it would work out, but it's been actually really, really good and well received. So that's been a big piece of trying to continue to support our faculty on that. With that, just a couple of other things that we did with Microsoft Teams, and I know Megan's talked about it. We've been using it for the AAR sessions and also the visitation days. It was kind of the first time when President Griggs asked us to do it. He addressed all of our employees on campus through basically an event through Teams, and like we've had over 100 connections to that, and it seemed to work really well. So that's been one good thing that came out of it. And another thing that we've been working on is just our entrance exams and how we're going to continue to promote those and have students continue to take entrance tests to be able to get placement, to continue their path to get into admissions. And we've been working with a couple groups here on campus, and what we've set up is remote proctoring, where we can have students get on the Microsoft Teams session, and then we're double checking their IDs, and then we're also watching their screens to be able to proctor tests that are out there. So some good things that came out of this that we never really probably would have thought of without this scenario here. So we're trying to really concentrate on both positives and what other things can we do. And I think people on this call today will also say the number of meetings that we did, being able to do them virtual and doing them through Teams has been a positive. So with that, again, I want to thank, like I said, our entire campus for being patient and being flexible, and then a big shout out to the IT staff that they've really stepped up during this time.
Thank you, Eric. Any questions for Eric? Okay.
I think Rich?
Yes, President Mickelson, members of the board, just kind of briefly on the finance and operations side of things, talk about what's the here and now and what we're currently working on and focusing on, and then what's coming up moving forward. I think from a finance standpoint, we've been positioned fairly well. We've been in a virtual online environment for quite some time. So that transition has been fairly easy. Obviously, the face-to-face relationships that we've built are suffering as a little bit of our inability to gather. However, our folks have been reaching out and trying to be as responsive as we can be for students, trying to help calm the waters and just let them know that we are continuing to operate as we typically and normally would. So from a purely finance perspective, it tends to be a derivative of what's going on outside of us or external to us. So the types of inquiries that have been coming in have really, we're seeing a lot of people are doing their taxes because we're getting a lot of requests for 1098-T information and verifying eligible expenditures as they look to do their individual taxes. The second external driver has been the registration for the next term, and there's some inquiries. Obviously, we put holds on student accounts if they still have an outstanding balance. So when they go to look to register, there's been a lot of inquiries trying to clean up those balances and get those things taken care of so that they can register and move forward with their education. From an operations standpoint, custodians are really moved into a summer schedule, so we're getting a jump start on all of the types of activities we would tend to do over the summer months when we have a little less foot traffic on campus. So this is really kind of a neat experience, I guess, in a positive for the custodial folks where we typically are running year-round. They are now able, when they want to wax a floor in a room, they're not having to keep and be mindful that we still need to have traffic flow and things got to be put back each night. So that's given them the flexibility to jump out ahead and get a lot of their summer work done. So all of that seems to be working well. The movement of, obviously there's a paper piece to our job as well. So we're still receiving deliveries, still receiving the mail, still routing things back out to the different areas. As Megan said, she's got folks coming in, checking mail and doing those kinds of things. So that physicality piece of it is still happening, still ongoing, and we maintain a presence here each day just to kind of handle those types of things. As we look out into the near-term future, obviously the FY21 budget is coming before us. I think we've had some discussions about backing up our tentative adoption a little bit just because of some of the uncertainties that exist. So, and then eventually backing up the final adoption, which we have done in years past from time to time. But really, it's probably going to be a sprint to develop this budget in May for FY21. A lot of uncertainty, but by delaying that final adoption, we start to see how things are trending, and we get a little more opportunity to see, do we need to make adjustments. So I think I've made the comment internally, there's a very strong possibility that the preliminary adoption and the final adoption are going to be more diverse and further apart than what we've probably seen in years past. So there might be a lot of revisions as we move forward. Considerations from a budget standpoint as we go to look at this, obviously we're a customer-based organization, so what happens with that? Certainly there's an impact on the summer term. You took action in the consent agenda that creates what I believe to be an equitable situation when we can no longer offer a ground-based traditional course. It's really an inequity to charge what's traditionally been an online course fees when everything might be being delivered in an online format. Not a huge impact on either FY20 or FY21. I think other things that are coming into play, obviously, you're keenly aware that the legislature is going to reconvene in June to look at what types of revisions need to be made to the state budget. I'm sure they're looking at their sales tax collections over the next several months, what impact that'll have. So there's a couple funding mechanisms that certainly could be on the table when the state looks to make whatever adjustments they need to make. One is the 2% adjustment in our FY21 per student allocation. That has roughly a $140,000 impact if that's to go away. Second one was there was some one-time money provided for equipment purchases. That's $1.5 million across the system. Obviously, we don't know how that was intended to be divided. I'm sure those discussions won't even happen until we know whether that survives or not. But even on an equal distribution, that has the potential to be a $375,000 impact. That are funds right now that have been appropriated, but do they survive? So that's one of the reasons for pushing back that budget adoption a little bit, because we'll have clarity, that final adoption, because we'll have clarity on that. So when we go to develop the FY21 budget, I think every tool is going to come out of the toolbox as we look to consider what type of options do we have, what can we do, what can we get by without for a while, what can we go with longer, what do we absolutely need to have. So it's going to be the same kind of discussion. It's going to be similar to what we've done in years past. So we're going to be looking at all staffing. We're going to be looking at all replacement. We'll be looking at salary enhancements. We'll be looking at part-time. We'll be looking at classroom expenditures and supplies. So every category is going to be subject to a review as we kind of prep for the next stage. At this point, if we're back up and running as normal into the fall term, hopefully a minimal impact. Still getting a lot of things coming in, students, housing contract, registration fees, those things are still happening and still ongoing. So the academic side, as Benjamin has stated, is already looking at the possibility of what happens if we continue in an online environment. I think we'll have to address those things as we get to that September timeline. So that in a very broad, high level is where we're at and where we think we're going over the next several months. stand by for any questions anybody would have.
Any questions for Rich? You've seen them?
Thanks, Rich. I think we have Tracy Nolder and Andy Van Zanten. I think, Andy, you were going to provide the housing overview.
He's unmuted.
Yeah, this is Andy Van Zanten, the Director of Housing here at Southeast Tech. I want to thank the board for their time. Housing is kind of a little bit of a different environment than the academic buildings on campus. So I'll give you a brief summary of kind of where we started, where we're at, and where we're going to be going. Housing's tried very hard and I think very successfully in responding to the changing academic environment with our on-campus student population. Upon the campus closure to the public, our residence halls closed to the public as well, and will continue to be closed to the public just as long as campus is closed. So there are no guests allowed in or out of our building. As you would imagine, the question we most commonly got when we started moving to an all-online format, and particularly after the Board of Regents schools announced that they were going to be giving refunds for room and board, was are we going to be refunding some of our rent for the spring semester to our residents who think it's in their best interest to remain off campus, whether at home or just in an off-campus living situation. A wrinkle kind of to remind you of is the housing here at Southeast Tech is not owned by Southeast Tech. It's operated by Southeast Tech. We actually have a housing foundation that oversees the budget and approves of the major decisions that housing is trying to work with. So we've met our housing foundation twice in the past 3 weeks to discuss kind of what our best scenario is moving forward and how we can best help the students that we have here on campus. After meeting with the board, they did authorize a refund of the spring semester for those students who wished to take it. In consultation with our legal counsel, we made the decision not to close the building entirely. So the opt-out of the spring contract was voluntary. When we started, we had 186 students in the building when we first closed to campus. 39 of those decided to take the opt-out. And by choosing to take the opt-out, they had to vacate their apartment by April 15th. So we're still moving students out. We had to probably spend a little more time than we would like to vacating the students due to the stay-at-home orders, particularly in Minnesota. We have about 45 to 50 students that live on campus here from Minnesota, so we had to extend that date a little bit. As of today, we have about 114 students in the building. We did have 47 students decide to remain. So a lot of the work that we've been doing, Tracy and I, is how to serve those students moving forward. We've been in consultation with the City Department of Health. They've been really helpful in helping us determine some processes in the event that we have an on-campus resident in our building who tests positive for COVID-19 or who has been in direct contact with someone from COVID-19. Both our students opting out and our students remaining were required to sign agreements saying that they understand what's expected of them. We did have to modify some of our policies for students remaining on campus. For example, we've pretty much had to do a 180 on the types of things that we strongly encourage in housing. You know, we usually encourage face-to-face contact and movement between apartments and developing a strong sense of community. And while we're still trying to do that, you just can't do it face-to-face. So we've limited apartment-to-apartment movement just for essential needs only. Like I said, we've closed the campus to the public. The next step that we have to take a look at is summer housing. Again, in consultation with our legal counsel, we are going to be providing housing for the summer. When we started this spring, we were actually going to have the largest group of students on campus for the summer that we've ever had. So far, I think only 6 of those have canceled their summer contracts. So we're still preparing for a rather large group here on campus in the summer. One of the unique things that's going to have to take place is the summer semester beginning on May 18th. We'll be moving students in while campus is closed. So like our move out, we'll have to organize a move-in process that encourages social distancing, where we only have a certain number of people coming in and walking through the building at a certain point in time. But I imagine as we move forward and if the current situation lasts and we get a little closer to the beginning of the summer semester, we'll see some of those students cancel. And we are offering a contract cancellation with zero penalty, so they won't have to pay a penalty if they do decide to cancel their summer contract. So as far as operations, the building's concerned, we do have a cleaning and maintenance crew that's begun a more aggressive cleaning process of their common areas here in the building. And as the apartments empty out here, we'll be starting our normal summer cleaning process where we go through each vacant apartment and do a thorough cleaning as well. We're going to try and do that in as short of a window as we can to prepare all the apartments that we need for students who are interested in moving on campus for the summer semester. I think that's a basic summary of what we have, kind of where we were at, where we're at now, and what we're planning on moving forward. So if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Andy. Any questions for Andy?
Not at this time.
And then Tracy's left then?
I think actually Tracy is not available.
Okay.
So I think that would conclude the report.
Could I ask one question? I did see something that you sent us regarding graduation maybe, but for the public, you could maybe explain.
Sure.
Okay.
This is Bob Griggs. As far as graduation, what we're looking at, we sent out a survey to our students to ask them, once it became apparent that due to city ordinance and restrictions on gathering, we would not be able to hold our May 8th graduation as we originally had hoped and planned. With that, the information that we have received back from the majority of students that are eligible to graduate is that they would like to see us move graduation to later in the summer, but actually hold an in-person event. And so I've been visiting with the other campuses as far as their approach and what they're going to do, and it seems varied at this time. But for Southeast Tech, we will be looking at that option. Obviously, there are other factors involved with that, and again, the city and where we hold the graduation event, we need a large amount of space. And so we will hope that the virus peaks in mid-June again, and then maybe by August timeframe, we may be able to have something, or early fall even. So we did offer, in terms of, we have as you all know on the school board, we have a December graduation, and we thought we could combine our December graduates and our spring graduates, but at least at this point in time, I think everyone is hopeful that we might be able to do something late summer, early fall to recognize those graduates.
Thank you, Bob. Any other questions for Dr. Griggs?
This is Carly, and I was just going to say I was having a conversation with somebody in the last couple of days, and one of their kind of comments was, I mean, what are administrators doing when there's no students around? And I had to kind of laugh to myself because I don't think there's any shortage of work to do. In fact, you guys are probably busier now than you have been in a long time. And so I gave a few examples of things that were being done, and they're like, oh yeah, I never really thought about that. So while we only had one report today, and it took almost the entire hour to give it, I think that's just a small fraction of the amount of time and effort that you guys and all of your teams have actually put into making this work. So kudos to everybody who has done bent over backwards to make this work now, and for good or bad, it's probably going to have to continue doing that for the next several weeks as the environment continues to change and the unknown continues here in our community. But we certainly appreciate all of the little details that maybe others on the outside, the consumers of your work, don't fully understand, or people in the community. Just know that we do. We understand the time and energy that's being put into that and all of the little details. And sometimes it's easy to see the details that you miss because that's what people catch on to. But you think about all those little things that you replanned for or adjusted and made work out that nobody noticed. And we certainly appreciate all of those things that you guys are working on, and especially for the next, as we wrap up this semester and then kind of tackle what the summer is going to look like as well.
Thank you, Carly. Anything else from anyone? I apologize for starting the meeting late. I had an agenda meeting that went long, but I wanted to recognize, obviously, if anybody's watching, there's a different setup today, which we'll be trying to use going forward so that we are following the city guidelines regarding social distancing and so forth by allowing board members to call in person, as well as administrators to give reports and so forth, to allow the public, if they do want to come and speak, so that we are still under that 10 person guideline per area. I'd also like to recognize Ben Schumacher, who helped set up the phone calling in today from the school district. It really was helpful. I texted everybody. They said they could hear this clearly, Ben, so I think we have a win on that. I want to thank STI. Not only Megan brought up again the PPE donation to the area healthcare providers. That was just a wonderful partnership for STI to do, and I know you've been in communication as well with the hospitals regarding 3D printers and the printing of respirators, as well as possibly ventilators if needed for our area healthcare providers. So thank you for being a good partner with the community, as well as steward of the state money and the community money we have. Finally, we were to have a budget work session after this meeting for the Sioux Falls School Board, based upon the state's determination that they will have a further budget meeting in June. We have decided to delay that budget work session into June until after we know what we will be receiving from the state. So if anybody was tuning in on for that, that is not happening now because of that. Anything else for the good of the STI meeting from any other board members? Seeing none.
This is Kate, that's for me.
Not from you. Thank you, Kate. Seeing none, do I have a motion for adjournment?
Oh, we have to approve the.
Oh, it was a report. That's right. I'm sorry. Do I have a motion to accept the report from the president on the COVID-19 planning and operations?
So moved. This is Nan.
Do I have a second?
Second, Carly.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries with 4 board members present voting. Now, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Parker, move. Second, Carly.
Thank you. I have a motion by board member Parker, a second by board member Ryder. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you all for participating.